Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable ongoing reality.
Welcome to Transition Radio.
And hello and welcome. It's Tuesday. That intro has more and more meaning every time I listen to it, especially with everything
we've been learning and hearing about.
It's like when we decided to make it, I just kind of like wrote, what came in, and it's like, whoa.
That was back in 2015 when we were in the RV.
Yeah. Incredible stuff. I mean, people don't even realize this hat looks like it's funny, but that's all right. I don't care. People aren't even aware, because they're busy with their iPhones and, going to work and just the everyday stuff that they don't pay attention to what's going on.
No.
And it's pretty sad because there's a lot of changes going to be coming our way.
There's a lot of things that are happening that people, you have your 9-to-5 job, you go to work every day, you have your weekends, you have your paycheck, and, things aren't going to always be that way.
No.
The world is really changing rapidly, and it's going to be a wake-up call to a lot of people that aren't going to realize what's been happening all along.
That old saying, rude awakening, is very, very truthful, because when people's worlds get turned upside down, it's just going to be, there's a lot of people that are awoke, in many different ways. So there's a lot of people that have been getting small doses of this, because it's something it's been happening gradually, because you can't just because it's.
I think it's really weird that there were telescopes from around the world that were shut down on the same day.
Yeah.
And, then they come up with some crazy, stupid idea that somebody was doing kiddie porn on a computer.
So they have to shut down 7 of the.
But the only one that they would have had that problem with was in New Mexico. So, but that doesn't explain the telescope that was in Argentina,
Chile,
or whatever. Yeah. So
crazy stuff.
There's going to be. They're talking about the poles, like the North and the South pole.
They've been talking.
Shifting. And when that kind of meteorological event were to happen,
people don't realize we're this planet that's out there in the middle of nowhere with all these things going on. The little information that people get it doesn't even, like when the dinosaurs ruled the earth, and they're just, how do you think the Grand Canyon got to be the Grand Canyon?
Yeah, some say it's over lots and lots of hundreds of millions of years, but
no,
it happened quickly.
Yeah, and just so much stuff that if you get your head out of the sand like an ostrich, you start seeing things, and that veil's removed, and you realize that all you are is a slave, to these Anunnakis, and we need to dedicate a show to this to really dig deep into people's consciousness, and so they could get a little bit of dose of what's going on.
But ironically, this is stuff that you have been talking about since 2006, 7 or something. And you used to do all these Wake Up America, Wake Up World videos and stuff that would, I told you, it kind of freaked me out. But, you knew about a lot of this stuff, and you actually ended up leaving the matrix and this crazy world for a while on your journey.
An album called Enslaved with a lot of songs in it that.
Why would you call it enslaved?
Because we are slaves. People don't realize that's all we've been breed and created for, slavery. And it's no different now, except now, they give you little trinkets to keep you entertained so that you don't question, what they're doing. But it's like, do you want the blue pill or do you want the red pill? How far and how deep do you want to go into the rabbit hole? And the information is all out there because they don't hide it. They don't hide it. If they would hide it, but they don't, it's on plain sight. They
have to leave it.
Yeah, of course.
They have to expose it.
Totally. But anyway, it's just a crazy world, and it's only going to get crazier. And, part of that crazy world is the cosmetic surgeries that are being done to people and how people just want to alter themselves. Because it's like there's this disease of self-hatred. There's this disease of people wanting to be someone else, and it's like, it all stems from our low self-esteem, from the time that we were little, that we were told we weren't good enough. And it's not just trans people. We're talking about everyone has been bitten by this bug.
Yeah, it seems like it's a very common malady of human existence, is this self-deprecating, I hate myself, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not, it's like I'm not, instead of I am.
Yeah,
I'm not.
And validation of how one looks and everything needs to be the external. And it's like these little suits that we wear are so temporary, so meaningless. Our soul is eternal. And people forget why we came down here. We didn't come down here to win Mr. and Mrs. Pageant. We came down here to learn and grow and be involved in things that would make our spirits grow and learn.
But I think that in the process of coming into this body and this planet and stuff, into this 3D existence that we are in, I think that a lot of people just really forgot what it was that they were here for. So they got caught up, and I was guilty too, of like, look at this, look at that, look at this, look at that. You could be rich, you could be famous, you could have friends, and all these
you can look
wonderful 3D like things that we could have on this planet. But there really isn't anything that's worth staying for on this planet.
And to lose your soul for it, because that's what happens, not to get all religious on people, but the true Christ, preach that do not be of the world. Do not get entangled in all these materialistic things. Do not let the flesh guide you, because it will fail you every single time. You need to build your spirit, your soul.
It'll lead you to destroy yourself, like you were talking about with these cosmetic surgeries. I mean, there's these beautiful people that, in the past, if they just left themselves alone and naturally.
Here we have, I don't even know who this person's name is, but definitely, look at the woman on the left. What was wrong with her? Absolutely nothing. But we have this disease of never good enough. We need more. We want to look younger. We want to look prettier. And in that quest, to me, it's like the ugliness that's inside starts to show outside. It's almost like if you look at the person, it's almost like a demonic creature appearing before us.
It's definitely their darker side.
Yeah. And here we got this. Look at this beautiful young lady on the left. It's like night and day. It's almost like the demon of the Blue Lagoon, stepped in and took over. And why would somebody want to do that to themselves? And then they always get these little lines on almost like the Joker look,
Yeah.
That's just, to me, it's like, what would compel a person to do that to their face? My own mother had plastic surgery, and when I went to see her and I saw what they did to her forehead, because they did that forehead lift and whatever, she looked like the bride of Frankenstein. It was all bloody, and to this day her eyes don't look the same. Her eyes are all droopy. They change your appearance. Look at this woman, it looks like the guy from Aerosmith.
That's what somebody said.
Yeah. That's exactly what they look like. And, I mean, what would compel this beautiful woman on the left to go and destroy herself? I mean, look at these two guys. I think they were twins. They look like something from, you know, Batman Returns. I mean, it's beyond me why people think. I mean, John Travolta, my God, he was good looking as heck. So what? You get a little wrinkly. It's part of growing old gracefully. And we know what happened to her. She got so many surgeries. She ended up dying by the hand of surgery. And this to me is like one of the, you know.
That's Donatella Versace.
Wow. That's Versace's sister. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
Wow.
She had tons of money, too.
So she went to the best. Yeah. No, it's just, it doesn't matter what doctor you go to. You know, it really doesn't matter. I mean, it's just, if people don't only understood biologically what is being done to them and what and the limitations. We're not a pieces of clay where you could just, you know, literally look at that lip. I mean, really? A little bit overzealous with the fillers there, you know? And Meg Ryan, dear God, she was gorgeous before. You know, this is just crazy. And look at these breast implants. I mean, that's just
right.
You know, it's like, what do people
extreme,
and look at the ripples. You see the ripples right there?
Yeah.
That's what happens. You know? I mean, it's just totally crazy. Lindsay Lohan. You know, they just destroy themselves. Totally. I mean, you know?
It's really sad.
It is. It's like a sickness. Oh my God, this woman looks like the demon from God knows where. I mean, what happens to people, really? I mean, that to me is the question. They have this mentality. I'm going to get surgery. You know, in their mind, they think they're going to become this perfect being that, you know, that a surgeon it's like some sort of artist that could take and draw a picture or scalpel, sort of.
When I went in for, you know, when I got my tracheal shave, I was talking to the surgeon about, you know, what facial things I could do, and he's like, well, what we do generally is we have a template, and that's for everyone. It's the template of the perfect female, you know, parameters, you know, like the dimensions and stuff. And everyone, although they're all individual people,
has to fit in that template.
Everyone has to fit in the size of the template.
Right.
So they cut and scrape
cookie cutter, literally,
on one template. You know, we are all individuals.
Now, people don't realize that, you know, your bones, your tendons, you know, you're not meant to sit there and pull your skin and do whatever it is that they do. That's not, our body wasn't designed for that.
Yeah.
And that's why you see them, people get these type of surgeries and they start like looking like the melting people, because it's not meant to last. No, and you have to keep going back.
Well, why would they be in business if they're only going to get like
a one-time
visit? I mean,
same thing goes for breast implants. Breast implants don't last forever. You know, they have a shelf life. If you're lucky enough that you don't get some sort of bacteria. What was it that some people were getting salmonella from butt lifts in Brazil?
Yeah. The UK wants to ban them.
Of course.
Because people are not just salmonella, but people are actually dying.
Dying because the stuff that goes in your breast, the stuff that goes in your butt, the stuff that you put all these chin implants in, it's not meant to go in your body. It's as high grade, whatever it is, it's not meant to go in there. That's not what.
We watched a video that was, you know, by that guy Marcus, I guess, and he was talking about, you know, just justifying, you know, the fact that his wife had implants. So he had a bunch of like doctors who happened to be plastic surgeons, obviously, who were touting, you know, the safety and efficacy of putting in plastic, you know, silicone implants and stuff and saline and whatnot. And, you know, they say, oh, these modern ones of today, they don't leak. You know, if you cut them, they're just, you know, if there's, you know, because they showed me, like when they were showing me implants, that it's like a solid material, but it still leaches out.
Of course, and you see what they do. After a while, they start, and I've been with women with breast implants, they do that. It's like they're going, what the hell is that? You know, it's just like this big, heavy thing that just kind of dangles. And, you know, a lot of, especially in trans women, that the cavities of their chest are not meant for that. They get infection. They get encapsulitis. They have to be removed, like that trans woman in Australia. What everything they did fell apart. Their surgery prolapsed, and they had to remove both their breasts because they got terrible infection. Look at what's her name in Florida there, Shelby. Also had to have them removed as soon as she put. I mean, I think it was like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And boom, had to take them out. Yeah, it's like the body repels all that. The body goes, this does not belong here. You know, and I know people have this idea about how they want to look, but we're not here for that. Really, we're here to grow our soul, our spirit. We're not here to grow our breast or grow our whatever else it is that people do. Anyway, we know a trans woman, actually. They're more of your acquaintance of mine, who just recently had her, what's the political way, gender conforming surgery.
Gender conforming.
Yes. And what were the words?
Well, at first they were like, everything's great. Oh yeah, by the way, this happened, right? That's what they
like some sort of
said. And they were also like looking forward to actually going to a concert in the same city where they're having their surgery earlier, you know, and they're still in the hospital now. And somebody asked them about how they felt, and they're like, oh, I feel great, you know, I haven't felt any pain, but of course I'm on a morphine drip.
Yeah, you don't feel anything when you first get out of surgery because you're still under the morphine and the anesthesia hasn't fully worn out. But
yesterday she wrote something that was completely different. And basically, in white letters over a black screen, my life just got infinitely more complicated. That's what they decided to say.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much says everything. It's almost like, holy cow, this is not curse, you know. What did I just do? You know, because you'll never get, and I've learned that most trans women will never admit when they boo-booed, when they made a mistake. And most trans guys won't either, you know. And it's like, holy cow, what did I do? Yeah. Life is now, you know, and you hear it a lot. It's like, because I really don't think they really think this through. It's like a fantasy. Like,
I don't think so. I mean, if they were to know what really takes place, you know, there's 20,000 nerve endings on the tip of the penis. You know, I mean, there are lots of sensations going on that particular body part, just like on the clit. Yeah. You know, the clit has more. So. Yeah. But, you know, it's like, it's a part of the body that is extremely sensitive. And, you know, it's really sad what they do to little boys in hospitals, you know, throughout America over the last 100 years. They've been circumcising little boys and stuff and basically making them less sensitive. And, you know, basically that could also be a reason why, you know, there's less, you know, virile males. Yeah,
because that's a very important part, and they just, for some religious reasons, they decide to like create that assault.
Cut the forward skin out.
And it's an assault on the baby, just like all those vaccines and stuff like that.
So imagine what happens when you actually remove not just the foreskin,
just the whole
but the entire glands, the whole shaft, and you refashion it, and now your life just got infinitely more complicated. And it's not going to get uncomplicated.
Can you imagine the trauma? The trauma. I mean, with all those nerve endings and the function that our genitals have, the trauma that a person goes through while having that surgery. Even though you're asleep and you don't know what's going on, but your body goes into massive shock. That's why most trans women after the surgery and for years on end are massively tired. They don't have the energy for anything. You know, it's a crazy thing. You know, it's just like no longer the same. No longer the same.
I was just reading. Someone writes, "Does circumcision have battle royale?"
What does that mean? Circumcision and battle royale. Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
You know, because you know, one of the things that got me a little frustrated yesterday, and I ended up commenting, and of course, when one comments and says something that might not be the same opinion as those that want their opinion to, you know, be the only opinion out there.
Of course.
They're gonna
try to shut you down. Shut you down. Yeah.
So one person that I know, they wrote, "Yeah, you're a woman now, and that's how it is." And it's like, really?
I mean,
really?
Not to be offensive, but the research and the scientists and people with reasoning, not the people that are totally a trans agenda around and trying to get it to be, you know, a thing, shows that there are genes in our bodies that are sex specific. You know, you cannot convert a penis into a vagina. It's impossible. There's the function of a vagina and the function of a penis are two different things. And just because you get a cosmetic type surgery does not make that a vagina. And as
even the doctors admitted, Dr. Barral back in Morocco in the 60s, who performed hundreds of these surgeries, said that, you know, they become women in their heads, but, you know, basically they have a feminized male part.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not saying that to offend anyone.
No, it's true.
It's just the truth of the surgery. That's why it's typically called sexual reassignment. It's not sexual replacement. It's not sexual, you know, creation surgery.
And you know, the name, the reassignment, whatever the name is, this thing is not even 100 years old. What they're doing to people. I mean, we're going to look back in time and this kind of stuff that they're doing to people as barbaric and crazy, because it's mutilation. It's abuse. The medical system should be jailed for allowing these type of surgeries on healthy organs. There's nothing wrong with it.
Saying, you know, it's like they said, "Oh, she's always been a woman. It's just the vagina that's new." And I'm like, you know, honestly, you can say that a trans woman is a woman, but honestly, if you look at it for what it's worth and the truth of biology and how a woman is a being created that has different
functions. I mean,
in this planet, in this life, if you are born a female with reproductive organs and a vagina
and chromosomes and DNA and certain genes,
this connection to the planet that males don't particularly have. Males don't have the cycles that are connected to the moon or to, you know, the process of bringing life. I mean, it's like it's one thing to want to identify as a woman, but to call yourself a woman is another thing entirely. You know what I mean? You're a trans woman, okay? I mean, at least you get that much, you know, can't you just be happy with that?
No, of course not, because they need to have the whole enchilada. But the thing is that this is the only mental condition, because it is proven, just because the lobbyists were able to remove whatever and there's a big money, you know, money, how do you call it? People with money are pushing this for a reason. It all started off with Kinsey, which was a pedophile. Just because this is being moved as a thing doesn't grant it validity. Make no bones about it. This is a mental condition, people with mental traumas and childhood traumas that are dealing with this. It's like an anorexic. Why isn't anorexia considered a disorder and gender dysphoria is considered dysphoria, not a disorder? You know, it's the same exact thing. But, you know, one is being treated differently from the other. And it's, again, it's not to, hey, look, I did it myself, okay? I understand how everyone feels. I felt the same way too, till I came to the realization there comes a time when you go, you know, yeah, in a perfect world, but it's not the way it is.
Yeah, but, you know, it doesn't matter. No matter what you want to say or not say to people, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's a push button
of course.
topic, and you know, the more you push, the more they push back.
Of course.
So it's
that doesn't
kind
make
of a waste of effort to do something like try to push back against it. I mean, I'm not pushing back against anything other than the fact that I'm saying that, you know, these surgeries are dangerous,
of course,
and they will not change you into the gender that you think that you want to be or that you identify as. It's literally not going to make you into a bona fide female. Okay, I mean, that's just the truth.
Another sad thing that came to light this week in Georgia, you know, there was an open investigation about a sexual assault on a minor child.
Back in 2017.
Right, and it's just, And the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights has announced that it will investigate a complaint that Alliance Defending Freedom attorneys, along with a local family law attorney, filed against the city school of Decatur, I guess it's Decatur, on behalf of the kindergartner who was sexually assaulted in her school bathroom. The complaint explains that the school's new transgender restroom policy opens the door to the assault of a 5-year-old female student by a boy in the girls' restroom at her elementary school. Now, back when Obama allowed all this stuff to take place, you know, people were saying, look, this is not even so much about transgender people. It's like about the freaks or about the people that are going to use this to take advantage of women and children.
Well, I mean, you're talking about like boys in general who can be mischievous and, you know, get into things, and, you know, who, I mean, boys are boys, right?
And men are men.
Right. Yeah. So they're going to be, you know, doing stuff, right? So this gives those boys, those men, the ability,
a free pass,
to ride into a women's facility, or girls' facility, and wreak havoc.
And say, I'm a woman too. I have gender dysphoria. I have the right to be in this bathroom.
But the thing is, the way that the school board did it was very sinister, because they never once sent a memo out. They didn't let the parents know that the policy had changed, where they were going to allow, you know, male students that identified as female to compete in school teams and go into restrooms and to be a part of like going overnight on trips and spending, you know, and staying with females. And, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, they didn't say anything. And then this woman actually found out, told her husband, Annie, look at it. This has changed. I can't believe it. You know, and they begged the school to rescind the policy. And the school said, no, we're not going to do it.
Because it will lose funding, because there's a massive political push for this agenda.
So basically, you know, this girl was not just assaulted in the sense of like being like kept in there and not allowed to go out, but she was actually fingered by the little boy, and the little girl was sexually like molested, you know, to be honest with you. This situation was both deeply tragic and avoidable, said ADF legal counsel Christiana Holcomb. Schools have a duty to protect the privacy and safety of all students, and Decatur schools clearly failed this young girl. The current approach that many schools are taking of passing these transgender bathroom policies isn't working. They fail to provide basic privacy or ensure the safety of all students.
And the key word here is all students. So here we have a population that, gosh, what is it? 3% of the population of that, so we've got to protect 3% of the population versus young women, little girls, or women in general, because certain people want the validation of being able to use a bathroom or want to use the bathroom or whatever, and they feel that they have all the rights in the world and poo-poo on everybody else. That's pretty sad. I mean, I would personally, if this bathroom thing is, I'll just use the bathroom before I leave the house, and I make sure that the place I'm going has a unisex bathroom so that I don't have to put anyone in danger. I don't have to make anyone feel uncomfortable, because, hey, there's other people in the world that live with me. I'm not the only one living in this world. I can't just think of my rights, my needs. We need to coexist with everybody else. According to the complaint filed on May 22nd, Superintendent David Dude, announced to staff a policy that required all Decatur schools to admit boys who identify as females into girls' restroom, locker rooms, and shower areas on school premises, based solely on the stated preference of the individual student. So all they have to say is like, I have gender dysphoria, I'm a girl.
Today.
Yeah, because that's what's happened.
Tomorrow I may not.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, there's just no...
There's not even a clinical, even if there was the therapist, my child is officially transitioning, but no, it's just
like,
at the
Wild West.
At the whim of the kid, you can actually say, I don't want to go in the girls' restroom today.
Whim of the kid or the whim of the adult?
I'm just going to call myself gender fluid. The boy didn't even call himself, didn't even say that he was transitioning to a girl. I mean, he just said,
gender fluid.
I'm gender fluid.
Same thing goes. You go in a YMCA or a gym or whatever, or some sort of that area where just females go. Guy could go in there dressed as a woman. I'm a woman. And he could be the biggest perv, a rapist, a avoider, whatever the people.
I don't even think that they have to even dress.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
I think that's pretty all
sad.
They have to do is say, I am this, and they can walk right in.
I mean, what cynical plan allowed that? I mean, what kind of world are we living in? See, and I don't know about you people. I mean, it's like I look at things and I don't think of like, okay, I'm trans. I look like this, whatever. Because people probably go, what's wrong with him? He's trans. Why is he so against? Because I don't just think of myself. I look at the bigger picture. I look at what's going on. I'm like, something's not right here, folks. This is not just about me. We live in a big blue planet, and there's trillions of people that we share the planet with. We can't just think of our own, selfish needs. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty sad.
Following the adoption of the policy, the complaint notes, Superintendent Dude and the board were repeatedly warned through written statements and public comment that the policy would unacceptably inflict the loss of privacy and a loss of safe private spaces for girls. The school district made no changes to the policy, and in November of 2017, a boy was permitted, because of the policy, to enter the girls' restroom where he assaulted the girl, known by the initials NT.
Not only did he assault her, he penetrated her. I mean, a 5-year-old.
A 5-year-old, that will never, ever be the same.
Oh, no. But, trans community doesn't care about that. As long as they get to use the bathroom that they need to use, because that's all that matters, The DOE LCR enforces Title 9, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in any education programs or activity receiving federal assistance. And that's the name of the game. People want federal assistance, so they have to, it's like a bullying, because that's how this agenda has gone to where it's gone. It's through bullying. The agency is investigating whether the school district failed to provide a prompt response to a report that NT was sexually assaulted, whether the implementation of this policy contributed to creating a hostile environment for the student and other girls in non-compliance with Title IX, and whether the district retaliated against the student's parents for reporting the sexual assault.
When we posted, and you posted this on your Facebook page, the response that you got from some people in the trans community was like,
yeah.
oh, that's not everybody. I don't know why these stories have to be out there. They're painting us in a bad light. And it's like, you know.
That's all they care about. They can't go, oh my God, poor girl. Another story that I shared online was about.
Did you share that one? Are we going to read that?
I don't have it here, but we could talk about it. About
transparent.
No, actually,
right?
a daughter of a trans woman who has been totally traumatized by the transition of their father. Yeah.
But, you know, maybe not.
Oh, we'll see if we have time if we do. But, you know, it's just, again, they also attack me for sharing that. It's like, oh, so wait a minute. So the victim don't get to speak. They shouldn't speak because it makes other trans people look bad.
A school's top priority is to protect the safety and bodily privacy of its students, period, said ADF allied attorney Bernadette Broyles with the Georgia Adoption and Family Law Practice, who co-filed the complaint with ADF. Decatur schools' policies have created a stressful, unfair, and as in this case, even unsafe environment, particularly for girls. We are grateful that OCR is investigating this tragedy, and we hope that the agency helps the school district and others adopt common sense solutions that protect the privacy and safety of all students. Now, the thing is, the mom,
Mm-hmm.
she asked the superintendent if, you know, he could guarantee her daughter's safety. And he said, no.
The school refused to change or alter its policy, forcing the mother to remove the daughter from the school for her emotional and physical safety. So they had to remove the daughter. They asked for the kid to be removed. They wouldn't do it. So they had to leave. They had to back down, you know, and that, I just, you know, I get totally just, I don't even have words because the bullying.
You really do have to have a heart. People, you're thinking about an innocent little girl, 5 years old, barely, you know, in school for the very first time in her life. And this is how she gets introduced to an education. I mean, it's like,
Traumatized for life.
What is she gonna, I mean, it's like forever feeling unsafe, forever violated, you know, forever traumatized. This could really impact this little girl for the rest of her life. And not if.
It will.
It did.
It
did.
Those people that are sexually molested, which many in the trans community have been, are messed up for life.
And then those of you in the community that have the gall to say, oh, that's not everybody in the trans community. You shouldn't put these stories up because they paint us all in a bad light. Well, there's a lot of bad light in the trans community.
Yeah,
you know,
they don't need any help.
A lot of bad, dark things that go on under the transgender umbrella.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, pedophiles are welcome under the transgender umbrella. You know,
somebody else, I think we just come.
This happened in Decatur, Georgia.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah. Oh, Robin, I don't know if that thing is messed up or not. Can you refresh it and see if it's also? But yeah, I mean, it's still to this day. Every time anything's reported, you know, people just don't want to hear it. People from the trans community want to silence it. They want to bully. You know, that's what irks me the most. It's that bullying nature, that wanting to hide things so they don't look bad. But it's like, you know what? I mean, just all you have to do is just, oh God, I don't even want to go there. Anyway, gender dysphoria, as it's called now, gender identity disorder, which I think is the name that fits it better. There are many reasons for it, and this is it's the latest, I guess, study you could call, or, you know, professionals coming together and creating a theory, you know, behind what gender dysphoria is, because there's no such thing as being born in the wrong body. See, if you're born in the wrong body, you would have deformed genitals. You would be like an intersex condition, okay, which there is biological things behind that. Transgenderism, gender dysphoria, has nothing biological to it. It's a very mental construct, or what's the word I'm looking for? Construct. It's about feeling, how people feel, and what people want to believe. Okay, all genders, all transgenders have or had gender dysphoria, but not all people with gender dysphoria are transgender. For the mass majority of children, and gender dysphoria is caused by psychological issues. Medically transitioning these children without careful elimination of all other possible causes is grossly unethical. And I believe this also goes for adults, not just children.
Other causes for gender dysphoria, there are a multitude of known factors that can lead to a feeling of gender dysphoria or cause someone to reject their own sex. These factors are complex, often occur together, and are interrelated.
In most cases, the child is not consciously aware of the reasons for their gender dysphoria and cannot explain it beyond, it's just a feeling I have or I just know.
In view of all the other known causes for gender dysphoria, the belief that there is nothing inherently wrong with identifying with the opposite sex, as the gender affirmative model asserts, is frustratingly simplistic and naive.
Some of the causes are, number one, borderline personality disorder. BPD is a particularly perplexing mental disorder that is difficult to diagnose and difficult to treat, sometimes called the chameleon of mental illnesses because it often manifests itself as depression, anxiety, and panic disorders, ADHD, substance abuse, and mania, which, by the way, if you talk to the mass majority of trans people, they all suffer depression, anxiety, panic disorders, attention deficit disorder, substance abuse, and mania. Because mania is like when they get on something and it's like manic, type of behavior.
According to the DSM-5, symptoms of BPD include markedly impoverished, poorly developed or unstable self-image, lack of self-love, thoughts of suicide and suicidal behavior, frequent feelings of being down, miserable and or hopeless, engagement in dangerous, risky, and potentially self-damaging activities unnecessarily and without regard to consequences.
So let's look at these. Low self-esteem, unstable self-image. That's the number one. People hate the way they look. They don't like themselves. Thoughts of suicide behavior, that's right there. Frequent feelings of being down, miserable, and hopeless. And this doesn't matter if they've already transitioned. They've had all the surgery. You still hear the same hopeless and miserable, stories. Engagement in dangerous, risky, and potentially self-damaging activities, cutting, going to bed with strangers, going out with people they don't know and putting themselves at risk without the regard of the consequences. They don't think of the consequences. This is why in TDOR, it's like every year, the TDOR is, we've got so wait a minute. Why are we blaming the world for this? Why don't we blame the trans community for it? What is being done for these?
When you look at those that have died, you just can't look past the fact that they're involved in
sex work,
risky activities.
Exactly. And without the regards to consequences, all of these are signs of borderline personality disorder.
I would say that engaging in dangerous, risky, and potentially self-damaging activities would also include those that do sexual reassignment surgeries.
Exactly.
And cosmetic surgery.
Unnecessarily. It's like without the regards of the consequence. Because they're not like your friend there. Oh, life really got complicated now. Did they even have a clue? Or was it just the La La Land, I'm going to have a vagina?
There's this other person that I met that basically is going to have their surgery on the 19th.
Oh, another accident waiting to happen.
And they're just like, oh my gosh, it's like, it's the best thing. They're looking forward to it. And, they hate themselves up.
Yeah, they do. That's it. All the signs of borderline personality disorder. Obsessional societally is so common in BPD that it has become a defining feature. Okay, so what's the number one push for the agenda? Oh, if we don't let them transition, they're going to commit suicide. So do people with BPD get out of jail card free to do whatever they want? Suicidality among BPD is a chronic and can continue over extended periods, months to years. That's why even after they transition, even after they get surgery, they still want to commit suicide. These symptoms distinguish patients with BPD from those with classic mood disorders who experience episodic suicidality only when acutely depressed. It's hard to imagine a more ideal mental illness to be misdiagnosed as transgender. Their symptoms perfectly match.
Well, my friend that I met in Minnesota, they put out a GoFundMe account for recovery costs and things like that of the surgery or whatever. So they were sharing a little bit of their life story. So they're talking about pre-adolescence and the state of comfortable confusion that they didn't really feel masculine or feminine, but the ability to have friendships with boys and girls, spend time equally between the two. Most kids stuck to one gender and they didn't, but they questioned stuff, and they were confused about the boy thing and the girl thing and stereotypical behaviors. Maybe they like to have kitties on their wall.
Oh wow!
So did that make them into a girl?
No, it's just different personalities.
So they go on and say in high school that it was strange, probably the worst years of their life, so trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I was feeling completely alone, isolated, feeling like I never fit in, hated not feeling masculine, hated not feeling like a boy, but I didn't understand why I felt this way or why I had these feelings, and basically just was miserable without a clue until I lost my virginity. Then it all changed and it finally felt okay. And it's like, this person is being able to get the surgery, and they're not all there.
They're not. And how many high school kids felt awkward in high school and felt like we didn't fit in? And
that's high school.
That's everyone in high school.
Unless you were the jock or the cheerleader.
That's it. It's like so we're cutting people's genitals. We're giving people a get out of jail card to change their sex, which is impossible, on feelings that normal human beings have throughout their life. Do you know how many women out there hate their breasts because they're too big and they wish they could have a reduction, or they wish they could not have, it's like, I don't know where and how this has gone. And I'm guilty. I did it, but I also fell for the line. I was like, oh yes, there's my savior, changing my gender. I'm going to be saved now. Because we're looking for a solution. We are people that are broken, and broken people will reach for whatever it is to try to fix themselves.
Yeah, there's things that people need money for. They go on GoFundMe. Someone, there was a real traumatic accident in New York this weekend where a limo crashed or something and 20 people died, and a family lost their parent, and stuff like that, and they're raising money for the kids and everything. They've lost their two parents. And people are giving to that, but you have trans women asking for money on GoFundMe. I mean,
it's crazy.
There are so many things that people need a lung transplant or
a heart transplant,
or heart, or gosh.
Things that really matter, not some sort of, borderline personality, whatever it is. Now, they did a survey on the Sisters, Resisters, Detransition survey. Although people think, oh, there's hardly no people detransition. There's more people detransitioning than you have ever even realized. They, you go ahead and just turn the quote is here.
Jim Morrison says, well, I've lived as a gay man for 30 years, and that was far worse than living as a trans woman.
Far worse. And that, again, and that's another thing that we're going to talk about, the living as gay and all of a sudden not wanting to live as gay anymore. So stay tuned.
I agree. It's more atypical lavender says. I agree. It's more like they are into feminine things with the mindset, but that doesn't exactly mean that they are gender dysphoric.
Exactly. Anyway, this is one of the transitioner who actually is quoted here.
BPD led me to pursue transition so as to identify myself with a greater cause/ideology, one which professed to ease my body dysphoria/dysmorphia with a 100% success rate. BPD makes self-identification difficult.
Okay, so another reason here, reason number 2, gender dysphoria, autism. Large amount of trans people are autistic, have Asperger, neurological impairment. Look at trans people and their lazy eye. Seriously. How many trans people out there have lazy eyes? Check that out. Just, no one's really put 2 and 2 together on that one.
Mark and I both.
Yeah, we both have lazy eyes. And we know a ton of people when we look at their lazy eye. So there's a neurological thing to this too. There is a well-documented overlap between transgender and autistic population. According to Kids on the Edge, the Gender Clinic, a documentary aired in November 2016, fully half of all referrals to the Tavistock Gender Clinic in London were diagnosed on the autism spectrum.
Being a gay man, even in a big city where it's accepted, is all about looks. And no fats, no femmes, no Asians, etc.
Yeah, it's a very, you notice a lot, what I notice with a lot of the gay men, especially the tweaks or whatever they're called, the very feminine gay man, they can't get the straight men that they want as a real feminine guy. So transition has become the solution. Wow, they transition, they get their straight man. There's so many different reasons, and we're going to mention a lot of these reasons here.
Lazy eye, is that from taking hormones for so long?
No, that's something that you're neurologically impaired with. I mean, I was born with it. It's just the way it is.
But the thing that Mark is trying to say is that we've gone through several, pictures of different trans people. And a lot of times what you see is that one eye is like totally going one direction and the other one. And it's like this neurological phenomenon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, nobody's talked about it.
No, very few people.
Really,
and the same with the autism spectrum. The awkwardness that in the way that we process things, because I have Asperger's. Lots of trans people have Asperger's, and the way we process things is very different. So it makes us think that our problem is gender related, which is not.
Kathleen Levinson is a social worker who is on the autism spectrum and has a daughter who's also autistic. Okay. When her daughter was 16, she decided she was transgender. At age 18, after just 2 sessions with a gender therapist, quote unquote, she was approved for a complete double mastectomy, which was covered by insurance and performed by the therapist's surgeon friend.
Oh boy.
Little kickback.
Yep.
The daughter is so mentally disabled that she is not even capable of handling her own financial affairs. But this was of no concern to the gender therapist. She also had such a limited understanding of transgenderism that she believed that taking testosterone would actually grow a penis on her, a myth that was perpetuated at her PFLAG support group.
This is pretty scary. It's like PFLAG support group are pushing this kind of thing, This is another detransitioner. I'd always felt like I had a male brain, and I think it had heavily to do with my inability to relate to other females due to my pretty severe ADHD.
My alienation from femaleness was related in part to how ADD features made me unable to meet the gendered expectations behaviorally and aesthetically others had for me.
And that's very common. I know that was my thing. I was always ridiculed by my mother and other people that I didn't behave like the typical female. So what is that? The typical female, that must be a man. No, there's no typical way of behaving. That's the problem. My autism made me see other females as completely different species. And like I mentioned earlier, autistic people or people with Asperger's, we look at things very differently. We look at body language differently. When somebody says something to us, we really overthink it. We create these little scenarios in our mind. We get stuck on a thought and it's there and it goes over and over and over again to the point where we become manic about something. You know, we got to get this done. We're going to get this changed. We got to, you know, and it just goes over and over in your head.
3, difficulty accepting homosexual feelings.
And that's where I was getting at. I think this is a big one in a lot of people.
Someone who's gay but cannot accept it will find it easier to pass as the other sex so as to appear heterosexual. This is particularly popular among teenage girls. There are no more teenage lesbians. They are all trans now. In fact, P-Flag, a support group initially set up in the 70s for parents and gay teens, is now full-on trans.
It's crazy.
There are no plain old homosexual kids there anymore.
So to me, this is like some form of conversion therapy. I mean, what's the best game plan? Look, in Iraq, they'll pay for your surgery, they'll get your reassignment, but they kill homosexuals. You know, it's like, when I first heard about this, and I've been shamed all my life about being a lesbian by my mother, especially because back in the day, it wasn't acceptable to be gay. So this was like, wow, you mean I could, here I was bodybuilding already, like changing, you know, the way I look. You mean I could like just become a dude and not have to worry and not be like shamed? You know, when I'm walking with my girlfriend in the street, I'll just be a regular guy. Where do I sign up? Let me know where to. And if you're going to be truthful with yourself, majority of FTMs all started off as lesbians. The majority, you know, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, you know, Aiden, whatever, explained that, you know, a ton of them. There's even a recognized social pecking order amongst the LGBT community with transgender at the top and butch lesbian way down at the bottom.
Jim Morrison says, I get really dysphoric around men who talk to me with words like bro, dude, man, masculine talk.
I hear you. I feel the same way.
When you were working at Walmart.
When I was working at Walmart, it was just like, you know, it's almost like speaking a different language. You know, they were talking and they were just the way they talk about females and the way it was just like, oh my God, no, I don't relate to this kind of stuff, you know? And it's just, yeah, it's weird.
4, social contagion, a phenomenon that is only beginning to be recognized by researchers. Entire groups of friends, usually girls, are coming out as trans. Gender specialists tell the parents that the only loving option is to support their children with hormone treatments and sex reassignment surgery. The result is that the entire peer group are starting hormones and having surgery.
This is crazy.
All with tons of love and support from their poor, naive parents.
Yeah. This is nuts.
Are you still taking T, Mark? It's not my business.
Oh, I've gone off and on T since I started back in 2003 because I know that long-term receptor use is not good for my health. I don't have any ovaries. When I come off of T completely for a long period of time, I start feeling the effects. So I'm on very low dose right now, just so that my bones don't get brittle, so that I have some sort of. But when I stopped for a whole year, voice didn't change back. I've been on it for so long.
Beard didn't
grow. Nothing. I mean, it's just my hair didn't start growing back. I started thinking, yeah, maybe it will. Bald. So, you know, that's one of the reasons I tell people, look, if you're going to do this, you got to make sure that, you know, these changes are going to alter your body. They're going to alter your health. You know, I take low amounts because when I go on just a regular dose of 100 a week, my blood pressure goes up. You know, you start feeling sick. You start feeling a lot of joint pains. I mean, there's a slew of things because your body is not meant to take this. Our female body is not meant to take T. There's a lot of ramifications from long-term use, from stroke, heart attack, diabetes. I mean, a slew of things that cancer. You know, people don't want to believe this, and they say it's fear-mongering, but it's not. If you look at the research for just regular HRT on men and regular HRT on women, there's a lot of lawsuits out there because of the side effects. It's synthetic. Our bodies don't agree with it. So I hate when I have when I go on it, and I go on it for a period of time, then I discontinue altogether. I listen to my body because I know that if I didn't, I'd be dead now. I've been on the stuff, off and on for 15, 16 years. It's crazy.
Atypical Lavender says, I understand the concept of what trans is, but I believe it is rare. I don't believe that all the people that are transitioning are literally trans. I think people do it because it's popular.
I would say that there's intersex people.
I definitely do not think children should transition, not until they are old enough to understand what the risks are fully and make the decision themselves.
Okay. As far as being trans, if you look at history, there really isn't history that shows this phenomenon as something that's happened. There's been intersex people. That's been since the beginning of time. People born.
Well, there are accounts of Roman, owners of these male slaves giving them Premarin, or,
right? Messing with people's stuff, but
giving them the urine of
right,
horses and stuff.
Experimental stuff. But what I'm talking about, people claiming to be born in a wrong body. Like if you go back to history, no, there's been no children reporting that kind of stuff like they do now. So I think there were intersex people. I think they're feminine men, and I think they're masculine women. That's been around forever. But this whole concept of people saying we're born wrong. No, there's nothing wrong with the genitals. There's nothing wrong. The body's perfectly healthy. It's the different reason, as we're reading here now, that create people say, but yeah, you're right.
Absolutely. Intersex is not trans.
Exactly.
At all,
it's not.
Intersex
exactly.
is a biological
condition. Exactly.
Trans is psychological in nature.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah. So, I just think it's really sad that the trans community has hijacked
the intersex
definition for its own purposes and stuff.
So they could,
because typically an intersex person thinks totally different.
They don't want their bodies messed with. They want to be left alone. It's pretty abusive what they do to kids to try to alter their genitals to fit whatever the parents, because they have some deformity. This is truly a psychological issue that the medical community has run with, the political community has run with. This is going to be known as the most atrocious thing that's happened in history, what's taking place.
And you're very welcome, and I'm very sorry that the trans community has done this to people who are truly intersex as yourself. It's really a sad day when, for political purposes, the trans community has to sabotage a legitimate biological condition.
Yeah, and the fact that they've used children as a pawn to push their agenda. And that really upsets me because, like I said, I don't live in a bubble. I don't just think about myself. I did this for whatever reasons. I probably fit 3 or 4 of the reasons in this list that I'm reading. I was sexually abused. I was ashamed of being a lesbian because that's how I was raised, to be ashamed for being a lesbian. I have autism or Asperger. What's the other one? Probably have borderline personality disorder. Who knows? Because when you get molested, when you have an abusive father who was an alcoholic, you learn to develop other personalities to keep you sane, to keep you safe. So, but I'm able to admit that. I'm able to admit things that most people, oh, no, not me. You talk about
I'm bona fide.
I'm a true trans person. And it's like, you don't grow and you don't heal unless you become aware and unless you become truthful. And you face yourself in the mirror and you really, you're not playing the game and you really soul search. You finally get to go, you know what? I know who I am. I know that, that this whole thing was all led by my life events. And there's nothing I can do about it now. Because I've tried detransition a couple of times, and it's not a pretty picture. It's not it. My life would be even more miserable, that if I did the other.
We see people that have detransition, FTMs that have detransition, that have a really hard time.
Oh my God!
Interfacing in just regular life, because years later they're still dealing with the effects of the testosterone.
And then people look at them as crazy. Well, you don't know what you want because you're flip-flopping. Last I checked, Change is the only constant in life. And as you grow as an individual, as you evolve, you realize the mistakes that you've made along the way. And if you can't do that, then you have a lot of maturing to do, in my opinion. You know, and I know my mistakes. I know what I'm capable of. I know who I am. And that's a very liberating feeling. And I wish that I could bottle that up and give it to all trans people. Because one of the reasons trans people, in my opinion, are miserable is because they can't look at themselves in the mirror and be truthful to themselves. They have to live in this little fantasy and continue this borderline personality fiasco instead of going, you know what? I know why I'm this way. You know, and that's empowering.
Yeah, I feel sorry for, you know, those that really have suffered some real severe traumas. I mean, you know, there's a lot of veterans in the United States who are transgender, and I can't imagine what kind of trauma that they had to see, especially those that were in Vietnam and the Gulf and all these different wars that happened, and what they saw that no human should ever see, and what they've been through and what they've had to deal with. You know, that type of trauma that leads a person to want to escape from their gender.
And not just that, the vaccinations. You stand in line and you got people on each side and you're walking, or you have like 8 people or 9 people on each side vaccinating each arm. You don't know what they're putting inside us.
You don't know if these drugs are actually feminizing the man.
I know that when I was, you know, all of a sudden I started getting really big. I was like, why am I getting this big? I mean, I had shoulders at 17. When I got out, I was like, whoa, what happened to me? I don't know what the heck they put in me. You know, because they experiment with you, you know, and this the same thing goes with with all this endocrine disrupting chemicals. But make no mistake, just because one, you know, has endocrine disruption does not make us a man, or, you know, if you're born a female, doesn't make you a man because you're more masculinized, or because you like to play sports, or because you like to wear men's shirts and men's shoes. Doesn't make you a man. It just makes you a person who's more masculine. And, you know, hey, you're different, and that's okay. We need to celebrate differences. I wish people would understand that more so, that it's okay to be different, that it's okay if you're a guy and you're more feminine, you like to wear more feminine clothes, more power to you. Go for it. If you're a girl and you like to be masculine, more power to you. That's authenticity. That's being brave. The other is just some concocted new thing that's making money, and it's taken off like crazy.
I mean, you say that, but it's the height of offense to hear it for a trans person.
I understand that, but, you know, hey, no one likes to be told anything that they don't want to hear. So we have to walk around life, you know, not, you know, lying to people, and so they can feel better. Everybody else it's like, what's wrong with these people? But no, we want to make the trans person feel better. We don't want to upset them. You know?
I mean, in our own personal lives, I mean, I really don't care what people see or don't see in me. I don't really live on the expectations of other people. You know, I mean, it's like, I did what I did. Obviously, there was some trauma that caused me to want to escape my gender, and although I found out later that it wasn't really possible, you know, I still choose to live my life,
and that's fine. There's not a problem with that.
I don't really want to be told by people that, oh yeah, you go ahead and do you, but you know, whatever, and then for people to say things and stuff, it's like, who cares? You know, you're just an individual living life. As long as you're not like caught up in the deception of thinking that you're going to actually become this or that.
So Atypical Lavender goes, yeah, hormones are no fun. I've been on both. Yeah, and they have a lot of side effects and can cause a lot of problems. So the next is sexual assault. The child feels it's safer to be the other gender. This wouldn't have happened to me if I were a boy. And I can relate to that one because I was sexually molested for 4 years of my life.
I had no sense of self, but I knew I didn't want to be a woman because bad things happen to women. I developed a very masculine self at a young age after being raped. And it was absolutely to disassociate myself from pain.
And that is,
And, you know, on the swing side of that, you know, you see, you know, coming from a male perspective, you see uber masculine guys doing, you know, talking and acting in that super masculine way. And you know that you're not like that. You know that you're, that just really just like this guy said earlier, you know, that bro dude man, you know,
yeah, because yeah,
hey, check this out, check out this chick on my phone, you know, or you know, check out the rack on that girl, you know, that kind of thing.
I mean, I don't even like to
just
hear
really
that.
offensive, you know, and coming from that perspective, you know, it makes a person want to escape from what they have to like portray. You know, they have to portray this, you know, stereotype of masculinity. So people like me think that it's really not, you know, possible to fit in the masculine role in life. So that's why we do what we do.
Right,
you know?
exactly. So Atypical Amateur said, I'm sorry that happened to you, Mark. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably one of the sexual abuse survivor that has worked through the pain and hasn't really, you know, I don't feel sorry for myself. You know, I kind of worked through it through the years, never really even had any therapy for it per se. I kind of felt sorry for the guy who actually molested me because it's almost like karma. You know, he had some sort of really terrible disease where his body was beaten up alive. He had to like cut his legs and another leg and an arm until he eventually died. And I didn't wish him any harm. I forgave him. You know, everybody has reasons for doing whatever. But yeah, a lot of people don't heal that quickly from something like that, or they don't deal with it as greatly. But I'm sure it had a lot to do with my dislike of men, of first being a lesbian and then led me to transition.
Here's your question here.
Yeah, so far, so for me, I'm 18 on the FTM and wanting to start T. Is that a bad idea? Personally, I wouldn't recommend it. You know, I think that it really solves nothing. I mean, testosterone creates a lot of changes, a lot more changes in an FTM than estrogen does in an MTF. But these changes, although we think it's great, it happened really quickly. Your brain just doesn't catch up with it. And after a while, it really does a number on your psyche. And some people will disagree with me. Some people say it's the greatest thing they've done. But all I say is let time be the judge of that, because after years of transitioning, and you, like they mentioned earlier, they didn't like the bro, hey dude, whatever, you start to really, your inner voice starts to talk to you and you start seeing yourself, I'm not like those men. I'm not like that at all. I don't feel like that. I don't think like that. And then you start really questioning yourself and you start feeling feelings that are not comfortable. And to be honest, you know, it's not the solution. It's not the solution. It's like, why do you feel that you want to go on T? Why do you feel that you're born in the wrong body? Just because you like playing sports or you like things that typical girls don't like? Just because you feel outcasted, as we're reading here regarding the autism, that you don't relate, you know, but that doesn't make you born in the wrong body, you know? We've got to learn that just because we feel uncomfortable around, you know, girls, or if you're a guy, you feel comfortable around guys, that doesn't mean that we have to alter our entire life and bring our world upside down for most people. You know, it's like learning to deal with our trauma is the way to go. And I say shame on the therapist, and I say shame on the system that's pushing this agenda to the point where it's destroying a lot of people. So no, XX baby, I don't think it's a good idea, but you're ultimately going to do, and you know, it's your life and I can't tell you how to live your life. My advice is, you know, just be you. Be you, and being you is just you. You don't have to be another gender because you don't like your own, you know?
I feel that my experiences of sexual abuse massively impacted my ability to tolerate my presence within my body and my relationship to the material consequences of operating this body. PTSD, raped by a girl at 19, needed anything to show me a way out of my body, anything to make it not the body that could be hurt by someone else.
You know, and I see that time and time again, you know, with a lot of FTMs who've been sexually molested. I'm sure also MTFs have been sexually molested and have whatever trauma that makes them want to run away from the sex they're born as. Because, you know, we live in a day and age that everything is escapism. You want to escape your world, you're going to play a video game. You're going to be whatever character in that video game you want. And, you know, instead of like, we didn't get to this day and age by being weakling, by fearing pain, by dealing with things in life. We would have died off as a species. But I don't know what it is with the species nowadays that any little thing that puts a little bit of pressure, it's like, I don't want to hear it. I'm going to melt down. I'm going to get triggered. Oh, no. We've got to like really, and I know it sounds harsh, but the only way to true happiness and the only way to really find peace within yourself is to face things and to understand yourself and to really dig deep, you know, because that's transgender people, even after they transition, even after they get surgery, even after they do what they do, they're still unhappy. So that tells you something. That tells you that this is deeper than just changing, you know, the clothes that you have on or whatever, your skin.
Other trauma, number 6, the child is trying to distance themselves from a severe trauma.
And the trauma could be endless. Like I know a lot of people.
It could be divorce. It could be, you know,
a very demanding father, a very demanding mother. It could be problems with their siblings. It could be something they've told them when they were young, impressionable, especially if you have a sensitive boy or a sensitive girl that something triggered oh no, boom. When we're young, we're very vulnerable. And any little thing, with stuff that you might not even remember because we tend to want to forget things that happen, that triggered this whole gender dysphoria. Bullying for being too effeminate or too butch. This is very common, okay? It's easy to see how this could happen. If you're constantly told you're a sissy or you're a tomboy and are severely bullied for it. I mean, this happens a lot. This happens a lot. You don't fit in. You feel like, well, I don't fit in, so I must be.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was like 9 years old. I was very emotional as a child, and my uncle said, "Stop crying, you're acting like a girl."
Yeah.
You know, what are you, a girl?
Yeah.
You know, and those types of things do not leave the psyche.
No, they
just kind of, they dig in, and then another moment happens, and that digs in there. Another moment happens, and that digs in there. Before you know it, you're feeling like, you know, maybe I am born in the wrong body. Maybe I am not who I'm, you know, not who I'm supposed to be.
And, you know, 100 years ago, somebody would have told that to a kid and it probably would have meant absolutely nothing. But this generation, okay, is they just don't have it in them because everything's been handed down to them. They haven't had, you know, most people worry about when their next meal is going to be, when, you know, are they going to have a roof over their head? Is a bomb going to come and blow them up because of the wars? And, you know, this day and age, people just don't have it in them. They don't have the coping skills. So any little thing could trigger. Also, if you're neurologically impaired, any little thing could lead to a massive thing. Like I was reading earlier with the autistic stuff. So little words, which may be inconsequential to somebody else, may be, you know, like they say, a mountain into a molehill. And that creates, it's like a domino effect.
TWT was a nerdy, effeminate boy who was picked on by the other guys. He subconsciously decided it'd be easier if he was just a female. So he went to a clinic that was progressive for its time and affirmed him in his wish to transition. He lived for 20 years as a woman, but never really felt right. It was only after years of good psychotherapy that he realized it was okay to be a guy and have feminine traits. Unfortunately, he is left with a permanently screwed up hormonal system.
And here, my friends, and
That's the way
ex-baby,
trans.
right, that once you start messing with your hormones and your endocrine system, you're never the same. With trans women, when they remove their testicles, you're going to have a lifelong of problems, from aging to brittle hair to emotional issues to cancer to you name it, you know, a bunch of different things. All because, you know, and some trans women are not even feminine. You got the feminine ones that are, you know, more gay, then you've got the other ones that are just nerdy, you know, nerdy. They don't fit in the typical male role. They're not even that feminine, but the sensitivity and the nerdiness, you know, makes them feel, well, maybe if I become like third wave trans, become a female, you know, that life will be so much better for me. And obviously, you know, 20 years later, I mean, once you really start, and I think as you get older, you start to realize, you know, things. Number 8, parents' wishes for a child of the other gender. This is very typical nowadays, especially if, and I believe that was the case with Jeanette. You know, they had 2 boys and she wanted 2 girls. And when Jared, or now Jazz, was born, it was more, you know, of them wanting a girl. So it's hard to believe, but there are many documented cases. Consider the sad story of Nancy Verhulst, who was legally euthanized in Belgium after a botched sex change operation. Her parents hated and rejected her because she was a girl and they wanted another boy. So she tried to become a boy, and when it didn't work, she took her own life. Pretty sad.
In Williams versus Freimeyer, 2012, the mother of a 5-year-old girl sent an email to the divorced father announcing that Jay was transgender and would from then on be considered a boy, wear boy clothing, and be called Bridge. Also that she would begin transitioning Jay from a girl to a boy, and she had discussed this with Jay's school. The mother was found by the courts to be forcing this on the child.
It's pretty sad. Number 9, feeling like a social outcast for any reason. In this case, taking on a transgender identity gives you instant popularity and social status. People will go out of their way to accept and befriend you for who you are, to show how cool and open-minded they are. And we've seen people like that. We got invited to somebody's house here one time only. It was like, yeah, my new trans friends, you know, and it's.
Parents are also having the options in some states to choose to label their newborn babies non-binary or genderless.
Wow. Yeah, it's, you know, yeah, crazy stuff.
I believe that social anxiety and the desire to fit in with the QSA, Queer Straight Alliance, at my school, almost all non-binary or FTM women led for my decision to identify as non-binary.
Number 10, depression and anxiety disorders. If only I were a boy, then I would be happy. Also known as the grass is always greener phenomenon. This is frequent theme found in online discussion groups among teens. And you see it, we've actually read a lot of them. You know, they think that their entire problems are going to go away if they change and alter their gender.
My dysphoria certainly fed my depression and vice versa, pushing me to identify as a trans man and look into transitioning. I felt that because I was depressed and I wanted to just get my body that transition would help solve all my problems. I feel like anxiety worsened by vitriolic 2013 Tumblr discourse kind of made me an impressionable kid feel like I was a bad person if I wasn't trans.
And it's become, you know, a thing. And a lot of young women who have autism or Asperger's are, you know, heading in this direction. Number 11, body dysmorphia and eating disorders. This is the case when someone thinks their body is ugly or defective in some way. Anorexia is a form of body dysmorphia. So is gender dysphoria.
Body dysmorphic disorder was often misconstrued with dysphoria, as I constantly felt my body was wrong, quote unquote, and I felt less so when not performing femininity. I confused my body dysmorphia brought on by the pressure to be thin, small, and beautiful, and worsened by my anorexia with dysphoria. I thought that the only way I would be happy being large and strong and obnoxious and taking up space was being male.
A lot of trans individuals, and especially trans guys, and I've interviewed a lot in the past, all reported to have some sort of anorexia or have some sort of eating disorder. And, you know, it really goes hand in hand, you know, with, you know, the disassociation, just not liking self. I mean, and these are things, and I think it's so important, really, to, gosh, I mean, when people want to know why, you know, why all of a sudden, you know, they feel the way that they do, I think it's important to be real. And I know it hurts, and I know, you know, people don't want to hear it, and it's a source of trigger and whatever else. But if we don't face our fears, if we don't face our triggers, if we don't face reality, you know, we're never going to heal. And it doesn't matter how many surgeries you get, how many pills you take to try to change, how many things you do. You're never going to find happiness until you really go deep. And it doesn't mean you can't identify and you can't dress the way you want and you can't live your life. I'm not telling you not to live your life. I'm just telling you, like, please become aware. Don't hurt yourself. All these people that are going under the knife in thinking that, yeah, I'm a woman now, I've reached, you know, and then as I start getting sick, as I start overly aging, as I start to realize as their time goes on in life, it's like, what did I do? And why am I still not happy? And that's all that I really want people, you know, to understand and to be real with themselves and to say, yeah, I understand. It's like, I understand. I know why I'm this way. I'm not going to go around and detransition. I've been in that route. It solved nothing, because then you have another set of problems. Now you're trying to fit into the role that you were born as, and it's impossible, trying to chase all this body hair out, trying to get, you know, and it's like, you know, even when I was presenting as a female, I wasn't feminine. I was playing the feminine role to please my mom, to please society, but I never felt comfortable like that. So it's like, be true to yourself, be happy. You know, that's the main thing. Be true to yourself, be happy. But being true to yourself and being happy doesn't mean you have to destroy yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself unconditionally. Look in the mirror and say, I love you. I love you no matter what. I love my male side. I love my female side. I love every side of me. And it's okay to be me.
I confused my body dysmorphia brought on by when I read that.
You read that. Yeah. Okay, so number 12, cultural homophobia. Okay, this is a big one here. In many Muslim countries, homosexuals are forced to transition, which is considered to be more socially acceptable than homosexuality. And I believe this is a big one. This is a big one. This is a big one in the Christian circles. You know, if you look at the majority of trans women, a lot of trans women were raised Christian. And the thought of being a homosexual is a big no-no. But somehow, some way, they managed to, what's the word I'm looking for? Okay. They managed to find it okay within their minds that, well, if I'm a woman, justify. If I'm a woman, then I'm okay with God because I'm a woman. And, you know, my ex, when we did a thing with National Geographic, well, I don't feel right making love to a man as a man, but when I present as a woman, it feels right. They were raised Christian. You know, these are things that we need to think about, you know, that denying it ain't going to solve anything. You know, it's just like, it's so freeing when you finally have made amends with yourself and you finally understand why you do what you do. Doesn't mean you have to undo what you did, because then it's like another cluster F that your mind goes through. But when you finally free yourself from that nagging mind, from that shame, from that constantly, it's like, then you could like, okay, I get it. You free yourself from it. And then you don't battle with it anymore. And then you just live. You just live.
It's a real issue if you grow up within, the bounds of traditional Christianity, as I was brought up, and the things that, there's like this list of things that you can't do, and it's like a do not do list, and it was even do not listen to rock and roll music. It was that strict, so. The whole gay thing was like, oh my God, that would be like, you sealed your fate.
Yeah.
It's like, that's, we're done with you. We're never going to contact you and stuff. And we want to disassociate ourselves. You're not ours anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's why I mentioned there's a large majority of trans women and trans men that grew up in a very religious household. And they justify this born in the wrong body, as their solution. Yes, I know. And it's all part of that. I think she wrote something else. Parents are also having the option. Oh, you already did that? Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, it's, and then they have other
possible causes. There are many more possible reasons that would cause someone to reject their gender, including self-hatred, medically perpetrated, self-harm, Munchausen syndrome, Munchausen by proxy, misogyny, male privilege, especially in Muslim countries, and more. The list is very long.
Proponents of transgenderism are quick to argue that these are anomalies and detransitioners are few and far between. However, this female detransition and re-identification survey and a larger, more formalized study immediately by Dr. Lisa Littman, adjunct professor of the Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, tell a far different story. I think that we're going to see, as the years progress, that this time of this gender dysphoric tsunami is going to be looked at as a very barbaric, I don't even know what other words to choose, way of handling a condition that has probably, has people have had different ways of expressing throughout history, but has never had a medical solution that has been flaunted in people's faces as, hey, this is what you got to do. And it's going to be looked upon like other weird medical practices that were executed, back in the day and looked at as crazy.
It doesn't honestly matter whether it is or isn't, as far as how it might look like the modern day lobotomy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is that people struggle with their gender identity. That is why it should not be called a dysphoria, but should be called a gender identity disorder.
Exactly.
Which is brought on by various traumas, such as these, and other insults as a child, as an adult, in social circles. And I think that really it's something that isn't going to just go away. And we could say that, surgeries don't work and all this other stuff, but the fact is there's a lot of people that are hurting. And the real reason that they're hurting is because they put all their eggs in one basket, and it's in this physical body that we have. And the most important thing that we need to understand is that we are not this. This is like a punishment we were placed in order to live in this entrapped state of being. We are spirits, and spirits are genderless. Spirits are neither male nor female. They're kind of a combination of both, in the sense, they have the attributes of both the masculine and the feminine, but we're not talking about masculine and feminine as we would describe it here on planet Earth, and how we see the social constructs, play out. But we're looking at a total different understanding of this fluidity of who we are.
Definitely.
And this isn't what it is. We get so caught up in the mirror and what we're supposed to look like, and then stereotypes of man and stereotypes of woman. And we get so caught up in this world and this meat suit that we have, that we forget that we're eternal spirits that are inside here. We may have been in this body now, but we may have been in a different gender body in a life before.
Right.
So this all is just one big, we get how many years on this earth, and then we go.
And we go into another body if we don't get it right, and we continue the vicious cycle. And I think that's why it's so important to be awakened, to not take this condition so seriously, to not take the human condition, the gender dysphoria condition, the body so seriously, because it makes us bound to this earthly plane. And it continues, and it will show up its ugly head worse in the next lifetime if we continue to allow the problems and whatever traumas that caused us to be gender misaligned,
So basically, it's more about living gender roles of the opposite sex rather than functioning as the opposite sex. Exactly. I think, there's no way that Mark can function as a male. It can definitely play the gender role of a male. That's no doubt. There's no way I could perform the function as the opposite sex as a woman, because I don't have the means to do so. I don't have that ability.
No.
But can I perform the gender role and we live as Mark and Lena? Yeah, we can do that. But the fact is that that it's not possible.
No, it's not. For instance, when we broke up for a little bit there, and I was working at Walmart, and the girls would come on to me and whatever. In the back of my mind was this fearful thing like, "Oh, you don't want me, honey. I'm damaged goods." I wouldn't tell them that, but I'm thinking, I could take you out on a date. We could go out to dinner, go out to the movie, go dancing. But when we want to get romantically involved, you're expecting a guy with a penis, which I don't have. I've got a very small micro penis. That ain't gonna fulfill you. And it doesn't, and you're not gonna be able to have my babies. Like one girl told me, "I want to have your babies." I'm like laughing inside of me. Yeah, okay. It's just no way. And even if I ever was crazy enough to get a phalloplasty, which I look into, and when I did, it was like, I ain't doing this. Still couldn't perform the way that, because a piece of arm is not a phallus. As much as trans guys want to believe that, and hey, it's your bag, but I knew that wasn't going to be possible for me, and I had the money, but I was like, I'm not putting myself through this. So you're living a life that's, the majority of trans people are alone. They're lonely. They're miserable. They live in their mirror, looking at themselves, taking selfies day in and day out, and that's about the bulk of the functioning role as a female. That's as far as it goes. The majority of them lose their jobs because the world doesn't fully accept this, and we can't force them to. This is not their issue.
Well, let's we can't just go into that one, because there's plenty of trans women, trans men that are working and functioning perfectly.
The majority, there's a large majority that are not employed. Some of them are functioning. Some of them lose their jobs, after a set amount of time. Some of them may have a relationship. They started with a relationship and they ended up losing the relationship. Now they're alone. And I can mention a ton of people that I've known that started off with a relationship and now they're lonely and they have no one in their lives. And, and it's just, it's like, to me, this is not for the faint of heart. And like I said, we as a couple function. We go out in the world, and people see us as, you know, Mark and Lena, and they know our story, you know, and you know we function. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't leave their houses because they're afraid to leave their houses. You know, a lot of people end up having surgeries and do whatever, and then they're sick and they get, you know, frail, and they get, because they're messing with their endocrine system, you know? Okay.
But, you know, it's like, you know, people can't function.
Jazz, he
we
said.
are alone.
Yes. I mean, that is, you know, that is the crux. I think that's like one of the crux of being trans. The majority, big, large majority are alone and will die alone. Do people think as we age and we have to get into nursing homes, how that, because no one ever thinks that, you know, it's only the young years when they're playing around and going out to clubs and hanging out with their friends and doing all this stuff. But when that fun time ends, what's going to happen to you? You know, it's reality. And I know, gosh, I know trans people don't like to look at reality. It's like trigger, coping skills, none, you know, but you've got to look at these realities because life is about realities. As hard as it is, it's tough love, but it's got to be looked at. And my heart breaks. As much as many of you hate me out there, my heart breaks because I know the reality. You know, it's...
Yeah, I mean, people are alone. They're lonely. They have nobody. And a lot of them will live with regret for the rest of their lives. And realizing that this is not what life is supposed to be.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, to this day, I live with regret over my family, over my children. You know, this is not what having children was meant to be for me, you know, and I live with that regret. I live with the fact that I know that I have my youngest, I left when he was 4 years old. He's now almost 10. I had not seen him. I had no pictures, you know, I mean, it's, you know, I can't imagine that this was the best thing to do for them, for myself. But now that it's all done, you know, thank God for you. Thank God for our relationship, which almost ended. Yeah. You know, I was out there and I thought that this marriage was over, and I was dating and I was thinking that, you know, I was going to find fulfillment and happiness and stuff, and realize that, you know, I'm just always going to be fodder. I'm always going to be like somebody that, you know, maybe they would want to date or go out with once or whatever, but not to bring home to mama, just, you know, not the married kind, and nothing like that, because forever a trans person is not the normal, typical.
Of course.
You know.
Of course.
I mean, it's like, you know, so I really came to that understanding, and I just thought to myself, you know, this is not what I want for my life. I know that I could get really, really sick. I could get hurt. I could get killed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just a few months in Minneapolis, you know, I was being like followed home. I was, you know, rode in someone's car. I mean, stupid stuff that trans women do. Like, they take chances,
risk as part of the borderline person.
As part of their condition, you know. I mean,
engagement in dangerous, risky, and potentially self-damaging activities unnecessarily and without regards to consequences.
Yeah, I mean, 2014. I was talking to this guy while I was getting an oil change at the dealership and stuff for my car, and he was like, "Why don't you come on over? My kid's gonna be, you know, napping, and we could have dinner." And stupid, I go all the way down to Wisconsin somewhere, like 2.5 hours from where I live, and I show up, and it's this dark, house, and I step out, and this guy looks at me, and he's like, "Ooh, you looking good," or something, and then walk in to the front patio, and I'm like, "So is your kid here? Are we gonna have dinner?" And he's like, "Oh no, we'll just," and he started pulling his pants down, and he wanted me to suck on him, and it's like,
it's the
I was
reality.
like, "Oh no,
It's the
I don't
reality.
do that. I don't do that." And then he's like, "What do you mean? What do you mean you don't do that?"
Yeah, because
You're a
people are
trans woman.
women. Yeah, they think of it
You're a
as a
trans
fetish. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh God, oh God, oh God! I'm gonna get out of here. I want to get out of here." And I just got up and I said, "I'm leaving." And it's like, that's how trans women get killed.
Yeah.
That's how we get killed,
because of
put
the
in this
quest.
stupid situations that we don't even think.
Because it's
The
risky behavior. The
consequences.
consequences are there. There, you just want the validation. You want to be told how pretty you are. You want to, have somebody, tell you whatever, and hear the stuff that you want to hear at all costs. And a lot of times that cost is death. A lot of times the cost is all sorts of slew of different things. This life is not the greatest life. And for those people that want to say otherwise, you may have been lucky and you may whatever. I'm not saying that every single person out there, but the vast majority is not a happy life. And they do what they do in the whim of thinking, that things are going to be different, because we all start off with this little fairy tale mentality, and in the end, the fairy tale doesn't come true.
And so I was just like, I need to just come back home, because I have someone in my life who has always loved me, who's wanted to take care of me, who sacrificed for me, who helped me heal. And understanding that it wasn't that you were like trying to manipulate and control me, but that you were actually trying to protect me and to keep me from doing stupid things, and learning lessons, that I needed to learn as an adult that I hadn't yet learned, So I'm just grateful that I, got my wits about me and put my head on straight and came back to New Mexico, because, I don't know what would have happened to me had I stayed.
And one of the reasons, that, and I know a lot of people don't like the message, the reason that I'm so passionate, because I'm very passionate about this. I'm extremely passionate about this. I've lived it. I've had tons of trans friends.
The anti-trans man.
Yeah, the anti-trans. And it's not that I'm anti-trans. Look at me. Hello. It's just that I see the bigger picture. And I wouldn't want this for anyone. Because, you might have moments of, of pleasure. You might have moments of feeling good. But your depression is not going to go away. The problems that you think are going to be gone when you got into this are going to be there, and then some. Majority of you aren't going to be as lucky to find someone to live the rest of your life with. You're going to die alone. You're going to die in a nursing home, or you don't know if you're going to get complications. You're going to be mistreated. You're going to have all sorts of health issues. Because what we've been doing to our bodies, every cell in our bodies, we've told ourselves that we hate you. That's how cancer comes along. You got to learn to love you. And I'm telling you this from the bottom of my heart. From the bottom of my heart. You've got to stop this craziness. Identify as you wish. Live your life as you wish. But stop hurting yourselves and stop hurting others. If you're an older trans person, and I'm sure you could tell people this, you've lost everything. Okay? I didn't have any kids, I didn't whatever, but if I would have, I'd be like telling people, do not do this. It doesn't solve anything. And you can't take back what's done, but you can tell people, please think this hard. Think this through really hard, because It's not just you that you're affecting other people. And on that note, we're going to read one more article. This is the one about my experience as a child of a trans individual. This is, you know, this stuff was, and I shared it on my wall because it really hits home. And you know why it hits home? When I hear stuff like this, because I've seen your suffering. I've seen how much you miss your kids. I see how you try to, like, what's the word, like, justify, because, you know, it's like, God, I lost this also. I'm going to, you know, and it's like, I know that deep in your heart that if you could, like, wave a magic wand and probably, you know, like, do over, you wouldn't do the same thing, you know? And it's...
No, I mean, I wouldn't want to lose the 5 people
that you brought to this world.
world.
You know, and it's like, there's many trans people out there. They poo-poo on their family, you know, and they forget about everything, but all they want is that they have those blinders and they're going to transition come hell or high water. And
that's where, you know, a lot of us were in the first stages of our...
Of course, I was that way.
Awakening. I mean, it's like, I told my then spouse that I would not, you know, like, get off this runaway train. I mean, I was like, I'm in the water, I'm swimming in it. I'm just going to let the current carry me wherever it's going to carry me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this plane is going to crash. And it did. And it blew up.
Mm-hmm.
And it destroyed a lot of people in the process. And I still don't know how deep of an impact of a crater it left.
Well, we're going to share the story here. Yeah.
But, you know, this article really spoke to me because I have a child. I have 5 kids of a trans individual, me. And they could very well write a story like this. Obviously, I was not like this person to no degree. But, you know, I obviously have compassion for those children of trans parents because I am a trans parent who lost all of my children. And I know that they're struggling to this day with losing their dad, losing, you know, a key person in their life that spoke into their lives up until the time I got left. You know,
and this is one of the things that I want trans individuals to really think about. This is not just about you. Please don't be selfish. Please realize that what you're doing will affect many people. Not only yourself. And in the beginning, you're all gung-ho, everything seems great, and you're in the honeymoon stage. But really, that honeymoon stage doesn't last forever. And as you age, you will have certain regrets. And you will think, God, was it worth it? You know, because they promise us the stars and the moon. It's like that Pinocchio, come to the land of, what is it? Land of enchantment or whatever. And they come in thinking they're going to be turned into real boys and girls and whatever, and they turn into donkeys and all sorts of stuff. That's kind of like our story, because we were promised all sorts of stuff, and we're like, yeah, man, this is going to fix me. I'm going to be boom, you know? And when it all said and done, you know, it didn't fulfill the promise that we were told, you know? And it's just a rough life, totally. So,
not woke. My experience as the child of a trans individual, it's come to my attention that I am not woke, not in the least. Be that as it may, I want to share my story about being the child of a transgender individual, because in all the years this has been my story, I have observed a very few people consider this perspective. Many years ago, when I so desperately needed to feel understood, there were no resources. Now the debate over trans issues is all out in the open, and I'm still not seeing many resources for kids of trans people. There are lots of articles and support groups focused on how to support trans loved ones, but nothing about how to support the children caught up and confused by such a dramatic change in a family.
It's not even talked about. It's not even, you know, there's not even anything. And also for trans widows, women that married very Masculine men they thought they were going to spend the rest of their lives with, and all of a sudden this masculine dude wanted to become a woman. I mean, that's really plays a psyche, you know, on a family dynamic, on children and on the wife. Before I begin, I'd just like to say I've never heard of any other stories exactly like mine. This is the first time, you know. I don't know whether the behavior I'm going to detail is typical. I'm not commenting on all trans individuals. I couldn't possibly. These vignettes of my dad's behavior during this time are all on the theme of his transition, but they don't define him entirely, nor do they define anyone else. They define my experience with his transition. And notice how people have to put all these disclaimers because, God forbid, they would upset anybody. You know?
My father came out as transgender the summer before I started 8th grade, and I found it traumatizing. This was the year 2000 when Eddie Izzard's transvestite stand-up comedy was edgy in the extreme. My developing adolescent brain had no idea how to interact with a parent who wasn't willing to be identified as my father anymore. None of my peers had an opinion or support to offer. Every time I shared my experience with a friend, they always seemed kind of stunned, sometimes even disgusted. It was a different time. No one was quote unquote woke.
Now, can you imagine what you're taking away your child's experience because you don't want to be known as their father, but yet you brought them into this world. Your sperm was part of the creation of that child, yet you don't want that child to call you dad. So you're taking away their identity so that you could justify yours. And that kind of strikes home with me because my mom would hate when I called her mom in front of people because she wanted to be the young, just a friend. And so don't call me mom in front of people. So, you know, that kind of like, whoa, you're my mother. What do you mean don't call you mom? You know, can you imagine how a child, teenager, whatever, feels? Like, but you are my dad. What do you mean don't call you dad? Though I love my father with a devotion bordering on idolatry, a lot of young women idolize their fathers. Not mine. I don't, because my dad was an alcoholic, beat up on my mom. But most women, young girls, idolize their father.
My sister idolized.
Yeah. I felt traumatized by the process of his transition. Some children of trans parents express having known what was coming when their parents came out, but I had no idea what was coming. My dad's news was a shock. My father was 6 foot tall, stoic, hyper-intellectual, black belt in karate. My dad was manly. Becoming a woman seemed like the last thing he was ever likely to do, but he announced his intention to do just that one evening in late summer. Shortly after that, his behavior started to change drastically, and it was this new behavior more than the transition itself that I found traumatizing. It started small. That's another thing. You got people that nobody even have a clue. They were just like all this manly Mr. Mutt, and all of a sudden it's like, boom. You can't hide that. You know, try to get a very feminine guy to hide his femininity. It doesn't happen.
He asked me not to call him Daddy for the first time while we were in a Target. We were shopping, and I called to him, said something like, Daddy, come look at this. But he was already presenting as a woman in public and was mortified. To his credit, I now understand being embarrassed by your kids in public and saying potentially hurtful things without thinking. No one is perfect, but I was still traumatized. I felt betrayed. I was very much in denial about my pain. I really don't have respect for trans women who forcefully want to make their children endure having to go with them to like a store. I mean, what are they trying to prove? You know, I never did that with my kids because I always felt like that was really like totally out of bounds, you know, but I've heard of others and read accounts how, you know, don't call me daddy, call me mommy. It's like, wait a minute, a 9-year-old child doesn't want to call their daddy mommy or mommy daddy. No,
It's like you're
doesn't make
forcing
sense.
them to lose their identity by fulfilling your own. That is selfish. They didn't ask for this. They didn't ask for this. During the school year, I tried to commit suicide by taking 11 ibuprofen at once. The bottle said not to take more than 10 at once, so I took 11. It's a little absurd, I now realize, but I was a naive girl who had had a happy childhood in a loving home until that point. I mean, the world fell apart. And so I really thought ibuprofen would end my life.
In the intervening years, my experience as a teenage child of a transgender person continued to be traumatizing. His inappropriate behavior regarding his sexual identity intensified. My dad openly discussed graphic and minute details about his hormone therapy, breast development, and surgeries with me. At one point, he even offered to let me see the finished work of the reassignment surgery while it was still a surgical site. After his surgery, my dad practiced using dilation tools with the door open. He had previously shown me the tools acrylic phalluses used to maintain the newly created orifice. He referred to the largest one as the tin can. He was covered with a blanket while using them, but I knew what he was doing and why.
That's child abuse right there. I mean, what sick mother effer would do that? You know? He told me stories about his adventures interacting with the world as a woman, stories about flirting with men or having slumber parties with members of his trans support group, because they all act like little naive little teenage girls. It's like grown men doing this kind of thing. There were stories about telling women he met that he didn't have children because he knew he could discuss pregnancy and birth with them from a woman's perspective. Of course not. He told strangers he didn't have kids because he didn't want to be outed. Then he told me about it.
A person just wrote, Tony Fox, the world will never change as long as you guys feel guilt about who you
The world will never change as long as we feel guilt
are.
about
As you
it.
guys feel guilt about who you are.
I guess you haven't been watching the show, and you know, for you to like, and I can't really, I mean, I want to continue this story and I'll address that later.
I attempted suicide again when I was 16. I used pills once more, but this time it was a mix of all the pills I could find in the house, both prescription and over-the-counter because I meant business. As before, I wanted to end my life because I felt so emotionally and psychologically maxed out by everything that attended my dad's transition that any little extra difficulty pushed me over the edge of anxiety and despair. I also felt a powerful need to protect my dad from my pain. To this day, I'm not even sure he knows about this second attempt.
After he met a man and they started a serious relationship, he asked me to lie to this man at a family Christmas party and tell him I was his niece. He asked me to pretend to be an orphan in my own family for the sake of keeping his secret. Our relationship became increasingly strained. A year later, I was at the hospital for another suicide attempt. Self-centered freaking guilt.
When I became engaged, my dad refused to walk me down the aisle at my wedding because he didn't want to be recognized as my father by my guests. Eventually, I asked him not to contact me anymore. It's been 5 years since we've spoken.
I'm not insensible to the fact that the above actions don't represent a complete picture of my father's character. I'm not insensible to the fact that all my own unkind and selfish actions listed out in this manner would seem damning. I'm only trying to give a clear picture of my own experience as the child of a transgender person. I found it traumatizing, and it was a time in the world when no one thought about things like this. I was on my own for dealing with it, so to speak. It is my experience that it was something that I had to be dealt with.
I wasn't woke then, and I'm not quote unquote woke now. The trauma I felt in connection with my dad's transition has been deep and long lasting. Just this week, I woke up from a sound sleep in a cold sweat because a memory of my father describing his first quote unquote female orgasms to me when I was 15 bubble to the surface of my subconscious.
Trans issues are something of a trigger for me. My personal experience makes it difficult for me to feel compassion for trans people in their current attempts to be seen. You'll notice my continued use of male pronouns, the term reassignment surgery instead of affirmation surgery. I know that it's not very tolerant and it's certainly not progressive, maybe even tone deaf, but it is the product of my experience.
Trans people aren't bad people, but my experience with the trans individual I know best was akin to child abuse. I don't know how else to describe my exposure to such graphic sexual details so early and often. In addition to the sexual content, the feelings of betrayal and abandonment I associate with my father's behavior as he navigated his transition leave me feeling jumpy and twitchy every time trans issues come up.
There's no hate here, no agenda. There's only pain, a lot of prayer, and the fervent hope that this pain will one day become something good. Okay, Tony. As far as guilt, we live in a world that has other people in it. We're coexisting with other people. Our actions create reaction. Other people get hurt. The world doesn't revolve around trans issues and trans people alone. We cohabitate with a ton of other people. Other people's feelings, like the story we just shared right now. So it's not a matter of guilt. It's a matter of like understanding that we don't live under a rock, that this whole gender dysphoria, as we mentioned a ton of different reasons behind it. If you didn't get it, please listen to the show from the beginning, is not something medical as they're trying to make it out to be. You know, born in the wrong body. That doesn't, you know, that's not the case. We need to, as individuals, become aware of reality, and we need to become aware of the possibilities and the limitations, and that our actions create reactions in the world, and there are other people living in the world with us. So, you know, no, the ignorance is not coming from other people. The ignorance is coming from the community that wants to badger people and force their belief onto others. That's where the problem lies. And this whole PC mentality that people have, that, you know, it's like they don't want to, trans people don't want to hear anything but what they want to hear, and they continue to destroy themselves and destroy others in their quest.
I mean, just yesterday, I was in a discussion with a group of trans women and stuff, and some of their allies, and, you know, they were telling me that I was an asshole, basically, for saying what I was saying about the fact that, you know, these surgeries are going to complicate their lives. You know, I mean, there's a person that's already gone under the knife, already dealt with some of this trauma, and said that their life is becoming infinitely more complicated now. And I said, you know, that's to be expected,
right,
because there's nothing you can do about it. But, you know, it's like once you say something that doesn't strike their chord the right way, you're labeled an idiot, an asshole, insensitive, ignorant. You know, I mean, it's like,
Tony, let me turn this around on you. The world will never change as long as we continue to abide by people's unreality and to not allow people to be who they are without having to put them in a gender box. Male and female are sexes. Now, there are different types of males and there are different types of females. This transgender agenda is a force, what's the word, a conversion therapy, making people want to fit into a nice little box. Well, if you're a feminine man, then you must be a woman. And if you're a masculine woman, then you must be a man.
You're regurgitating heteronormative experiences with trans people. Take charge of your own.
Regurgitating heteronormative. There's not hetero, on the contrary.
Heteronormative experiences is what trans people
are doing.
Trying to do.
Exactly.
Trying to jump out of one box and going into another box and thinking that that it is biologically something that is possible.
Right.
And the fact is that psychologically you can gender role play all you want, but biologically, no matter what you do, no matter what you do, no matter what I do, we can't change our biological sex.
And I know who I am. I have no problem with who I am. And if you watch the show, I express a lot of stuff you might want to listen to. I'm coming from a pure heart and trying to tell people that their problems are not going to get solved by doing this. Because a lot of people think that changing their gender is the answer. And the gender is the least of their problems.
Oh, I know. All trans folks don't get the surgery. Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, very true.
Majority
don't. But a lot of trans folks live in a vicious cycle of self-hatred. And that needs to change, because that is what's killing them, is that self-hatred, that wanting to be something so badly that can never be. So if you just accept who you are, you live your life and you live happy. That's a solution.
We have a right to our IDs.
Of course you do. You have a right to ID all you want, but so does the world have the right not to see you as your ID. So does the world not to understand or want to be part of it. You could live your ID all you want, but you're forcing your ID on other people. And that's where the problem lies, because you want so badly to be seen as something that the world won't see. And you're having your conniption fit or whatever it is and forcing others. We cohabitate with a ton of other people. This planet doesn't just belong to trans people. Like that article that we read about the girl being molested because the school changed.
That's hetero talk.
That's not hetero talk. That's reality. Hetero talk. What's the hetero talk? I mean, and again, they just want to change the world the way they want to see it, and they want to label things. That's hetero talk. No, I'm not even pushing hetero anything. Telling people could be who they want to be, but don't force other people to see you. Live your life, but be happy while you're living it. Bottom line.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say.
All right.
Like I said, the world won't change unless we accept ourselves first. Oh, Mark and I accept ourselves.
I accept myself. 100%. I know who I am. I know who I am, and I know my biology.
100%. And we have IDs that reflect the opposite gender than we were born as, but that's just the system that we ascribe to, and but we know the reality.
Yeah. And that's the name of the game. Is knowing the reality.
It's not like
the world will never change unless people stop living.
So don't tell others who they are. Well, listen to you though. You're like telling us what
dictating.
We should do. It's like that is so typical of the trans community.
Of course.
It's like you always, many of you, always just have to shove it down someone's throat. We're just telling people, live as the role that you want to live as. Don't force people, to make people see something they don't see. Just be happy and content with who you are.
Be healthy,
others, be kind, but this holds. So
of
don't
course,
tell others
but that's
who
the mentality. That's part of the disorder.
Tell others who they are. I mean, we're not telling you who you are. I mean, if you're one sex, you're one sex. If you're another sex, you're another sex. But whatever, But it's the fact is that these are things that just get under our skin with the trans community, because it's like you all don't like to be told what to do, but you always have to tell other people.
They love that. That's how they bully.
Not right.
You guys bully your way through the world.
It's not right.
But the bullying is going to end because pendulum always swings. What comes up must come down, and you guys have pushed so hard, that the world's going to say no more, because people were willing. I mean, how many people do we know that were like all, okay with the trans thing till the trans thing started pushing and invading on their rights? on their privacies, on their needs.
When a little girl can't even go to the bathroom without getting sexually assaulted by a gender fluid boy, you know, that's where the trans community should be focusing its intent on, is preventing things like that from happening, you know.
But there's too self-centered.
Too busy, you know, telling this girl, this woman, not to tell her story.
Yeah, silencing people, you know, because they only want their story. They only want their side.
Look bad.
You know, and it's like, I'm sorry. You know, I was a pioneer of this stupid thing since 2003. You know, I've interviewed people from all over the world. I've probably known more trans people than trans people know themselves, because I lived in a place where there are tons of them. I was an advocate for years, and I could tell you, I mean, I just became disgusted. You know, and I was just like, you know, I don't want any part of this. I mean, I don't want to be even labeled transgender. It's like sometimes I feel ashamed, you know, because of the behavior I see and the bullying. You know, it's like, you need to stop bullying. You want to live your life, live your life. Don't live your life for validation and forcing other people to see you. It's like a poor girl, her own father was denying, you know, it's like, she didn't ask to be born. You know, and it's like, gosh, have a little compassion for other people. You want people to have compassion for you, but you have zero compassion for other people. It's all self-centeredness.
Right. Don't tell others who they are. I mean, it's like,
no one's telling anybody. Yeah, exactly.
Mark
and then, you know,
not to do something.
And then calling other people ignorant. No, the ignorant person here is you. You can't see above your little circle of life. Life does not revolve around you.
That's her, and her mother didn't ask to be trans.
Oh,
it's not a mother.
It's a man, father.
They have a mother. She birthed that child. That's her dad. Always will be. It doesn't matter what you want to call that. Is not a mother, has no mothering instincts, has no mothering ability, you know, nothing of that. You know, it's not a mom. You know, it's like,
it's just a fetish.
It's really disgusting for someone to say her mother didn't ask to be trans. Yes, trans is a decision that one makes.
Exactly. You know, because
it's a choice. 20,
30 years ago, before this whole trans, you know, propaganda was in, people were living their lives. But all of a sudden, when this whole like, hey, you could be this, everybody's like, oh, I'll take a number. You know?
Now, the mom, the real mom, you know, she didn't ask. She probably wasn't interested in being a lesbian. Yeah. So there's no way that this dad could be a mother, because there's no possible way.
None.
I mean, it's just not possible. The only way that dad could be a mom was if that dad was actually a woman.
Born a woman.
You know, and that didn't happen. That's not what that mother, that wife married. You know, I mean, it's totally disrespectful for you to call that person a mother when they don't have an ounce of mother in them.
None. And
no
as
breast
much
to nurse any child, no womb to bear any child, no sense of mothering in that person.
All they have is a sense of having a good time, going out with their friends and having sleepovers and doing all the things, fantasizing things that they think a woman should be, you know?
And I don't care what someone else thinks, but if that child only sees them as their dad, that's all they will ever be. It doesn't matter if you want to pretend that you're a mom, if you transition. I would never call myself a mother to my children. My children have a mom.
Exactly.
Disrespectful. And they do not need another mom. They have one. What they did lose was their dad. You know, and that's what they'll always see me as. But, you know, I may not like the label because I'm traumatized with masculinity, but they don't have a problem with it.
It's not their fault.
You know,
it's not their fault at all.
That's not their problem. They don't see that, you know. they see what they see.
Exactly.
You know, to tell them that they don't have a dad is telling them that a part of them doesn't exist.
Yeah, and that is so rude and so selfish and so like the trans community. You know, it's like they want what they want and how they want, and that's why I can't.
You two are a product of an old generation.
Oh, no, we too are a product of life and how life is supposed to be. Trans people live in their own little world.
How old are you, Tony? And are you a trans woman?
You know, it's like you could want whatever you want. I suggest you listen to the part of Gender Dysphoria Explained, and I suggest you look at all the little different reasons and see which one fits you. Maybe multiple, 3 or 4. But
LOL life.
you know, if you can't be aware and real with yourself, you're in for a rude awakening.
If you're one of these young ones that you can't begin to even try to explain life.
Oh yeah.
Now it's just insults.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess you want to play the insult game. We're not interested in playing the insult game. That's beneath us to do that.
But you know, it's just one of the disorders, whether it's, you know, whatever it is. You know what? I feel sorry for you. I really do. I feel sorry for a lot of trans people because the lack of awareness is really sad. And all I do is like, I really hope that every single one of you out there could heal and could become aware. And it doesn't mean you have to detransition, because that doesn't create healing. That sometimes even creates more trauma. But just realize who you are. Stop trying to take somebody else's identity and own up to who you are.
Tony says, no insult. And it's like, you know, it is an insult because you tell us that we can't even begin to explain life. My point is just like mankind. You sit here, try to explain the many wonders of the world, like life. Okay. Now you're like,
yeah.
You know, it's like they're smoking a cigar and
or weed or whatever it is,
or whatever,
having a drink or whatever. But anyway, we've made our point, and we've like, wow, it was almost like we started at 8:30. It's going to be 11. But I hope that most of you who get to listen to the show, if you didn't watch it live, and really,
I know we're not God.
Yeah.
We're not God. You are absolutely right. I'm not God, and you're not God either.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, if you want to
explain greatly,
if you want to keep on with it, so well said, Mark. I'm a 20-year-old MTF transsexual, and I want to keep it real.
And that's what's important.
That's great.
That's great, and that's all we want is for people to keep it real, to really understand themselves. You know, there's nothing wrong with your body. We've been, you know, a byproduct of childhood, a byproduct of chemicals, a byproduct of many things. But to understand and keeping it real so that you don't continue to hurt yourself and hurt other people is very important. And for those that could understand that, great. For those that don't, then hey, you know, you've got to live with yourself. And one day your own conscience will speak to you.
Willow says, I can never be a mother. I will be a good father who appears from me.
There you go. Thank you, Willow.
Right, taking HRT is a choice.
Yeah, definitely. It is. Yeah, what we did is a choice.
It was a choice.
Nobody put a gun in our heads. We lived our lives for how many years without doing this? You know, and that's what people have to understand. But, you know, there's this advocacy of, you know, of lies, of talking about suicide. Well, we're going to talk about suicide. I'm going to look at the borderline personality disorder, you know, which we explain on the show, and I'll probably make a copy of this and put it on the I don't know, it's probably too long, but
you can link it.
Yeah, I don't know if I can link there. I didn't put the link there, but I'll link the article. But you have this thing with this heteronormative talking points. I mean,
it's like, it reminds me of that person who used to say, You're using ad hominem.
Yeah, but they're trying as a heteronormative. No one's being any heteronormative. I mean, there's no heteronormative. From the time I was 13, I was a lesbian. There's no heteronormative anything. You know, I mean, if anybody's, you know, I'm saying be free to be, but
how could two bisexuals be
heteronormative?
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but again, they need to justify their behavior, and by doing that, they need to bring
other people
down and need to force. And that's that's when I stopped wanting to advocate. When I saw these young transgender, a lot of them, and the way they, you know, it's like, and not all of them, because I see Willow, it's not like that, but there's a big majority that just, you know, it's sad.
Sexual reproduction is heteronormative.
Yeah. Well,
thanks, Atypical Lavender. Appreciate you joining us on the show.
Have a good night. Yeah. We're going to go ahead and end this. Thank you so much for all of you that joined. And, you know, you could agree to disagree. And, you know, we trying to bring a different perspective away from the party line for people to realize that they don't have to choose this path to help understand themselves and to help heal themselves. There are other ways out there to deal with your gender dysphoria. And I hope that all the different, you know, reasonings behind it here will help you understand yourselves more, because that's the name of the game. To self-understand, to become aware, to try to heal. Because if you're banking on the SRS and the hormones to heal you, it ain't gonna happen.
And you know, trans women out there, I mean, this face and this body, all of it is going to age.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're not going to get what you want to get out of it, you know.
Yeah.
And I just want to let you guys know that this isn't what's important. You know, what's important is what's in your heart. What's important is your eternal soul. Yeah. And if you focus on using your transition to becoming a better person, then maybe it was a good thing for you to do it, because then you were able to get something out of it. But if you're using it to become a darker, more self-centered individual, then I would think twice, you know, because, you know, it's only going to lead to more dissatisfaction.
Exactly.
And hatred of yourself, because you're not going to like what you see.
And then you're always going to try to fix things that aren't fixable. And Tony so says, the fully developed trans man. Fully developed, and I could be as stealth as I want, and I could be whatever, but I'm not delusional. Okay, and I know who I am. I'm biologically a female. You know, and in those gender dysphoric explained thing, that probably 4 or 5 of them fit me. But I'm able to express that, and I don't have to hide it. And that's the truth.
Thing, though, with a trans man, the changes come so fast, so quick, that it goes past their mental capacity to process all the changes that are occurring on their body. So, although you may see a very developed trans man, you know, it's like you don't know what their brain is telling them inside of them. Before all those changes, Mark was a beautiful, long-haired woman, you know, looked like a beautiful woman. So I think that, you know, as does happen with lots of trans men out there, that they change so rapidly that it's too much for their mental, you know, for their body to catch up with their brain.
And even when you catch up after the years pass by, because I'm not new to this game, you know. Even after you catch up, then you start seeing how different you are from cis men. Then you start, you know, like really feelings that, you know, I could try to explain to you, but right now you're still in your honeymoon stage and you're still in your, you know it all attitude. But this is more than the physical. This is spiritual, and you have to deal with your conscious mind talking to you day in and day out.
And it really doesn't matter how stealthy you are, how much you pass or whatever.
It doesn't.
The fact of the matter is that you always feel what?
Like what do you call it? The word I was used, like an imposter. I'm like an imposter, and that's why from day one, I've been advocating, and I've been out, and I could have been as stealth as a doorknob, but part of me knew no.
Willow says, interesting. A friend of mine who has been close with FTMs and said that she doesn't like how T makes them.
Yeah.
And you can attest to
I can
that.
attest to that. That's why, like, even when I start going on normal doses, like 200, whatever, I don't like it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I feel like, and, I was looking
what
at
happened when you were with, as a lesbian, you were with Arlene, and Arlene saw you changing?
Yeah. She was like, what happened to you? Because I was beautiful, female, and I was with this other female, and I started taking steroids to bodybuild and whatever, and it's just, I changed. And I didn't notice the change. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because you don't know the changes, you're like, but then when you stop taking this stuff, like when I stopped taking tea, I see a different side of me. I'm more softer, I'm more, it's like when I was on getting back on tea again, I was like, it's like, I don't like it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. It's just like this, it's horrific. The thing is, though, it's not so much estrogen. It's how testosterone converts into estrogen. And that creates a lot of problems. And that's the estrogen dominance. Estrogen is not a very kind hormone. It's not kind to genetic females. It creates a lot of emotional issues. It creates a lot of biological issues, from cancer to you name it. And it's when trans guys take testosterone, the body is trying to revert back to its homeostasis, and it starts to release a lot of estrogen. And that excess estrogen is just, it's what when I have a normal, like when I have nothing in me because I have no ovaries, I feel a lot more normal.
But this is Willow, an MTF, saying that estrogen is different, that it's made her kinder and given her more space. It mellows you out, that's for sure. It does mellow you out.
Yes and no. I mean, because let's see how I could put this without, as a genetically born female, when I had my periods and I had my estrogen, and I've been around females all my life since I was 13. I've lesbian very actively, many relationships. The PMS is very real, and it's caused by the estrogen.
Right, but we're not talking about a female body. We're talking about a male body.
Who's taking estrogen. Well, yeah.
So I'm saying
calms you down.
It calms them down because the level of their testosterone goes down.
Brings it down. Yeah.
So
makes them a bit. We've talked about that too. It's almost like very submissive in a way, or
yes, like, mood swings, but kinder.
Okay.
So
it depends how bad the mood swings are, because I've been around a lot of.
I mean, if you're a sensitive person, it
I've been
makes
around
you
a lot
even
of,
more sensitive.
You're not as bad. Like Jessica, I used to get in some. That's why I had the orchiectomy, because I thought, oh my God, been around a lot of trans women that the mood swings are horrific, and so I've been around a lot of cis women who the mood swings are horrific. I had horrific PMS, as when I was presenting female, horrific PMS, and when I actually had a hysterectomy, I felt,
You never got your rites of passage as a man. You didn't have enough courage to step into your ID. A very trans thing, especially in America. You should research other cultures, all trans folks. Don't conceptualize their lives like this.
There will never be a rite of passage as a man when you were socialized as a female. It just...
So you didn't have enough courage to step into your...
Oh, do you even know me to say that? I mean, if there's any man's man out there, watch some of my old videos on watch a Maury Povich interview that I did. You don't know me. I mean, you don't even know. Watch the ton of documentaries that I've made when I was pro-trans. You have no clue. So you're speaking without any knowledge,
I'm a boss-ass bitch, though. I've always been sensitive, even more now. But I give people more space. The male libido feels very impatient.
Yeah. What's the point of?
What's your point, Tony?
Conceptualize our lives. And we've researched other culture. You know, I'm 54 years old. I'm college graduate, occupational therapist, medical professional. I don't even know why,
Yeah.
It's just, well, it's 11:04. And, again, I hope that those of your watchers got something out of it. I think we brought out a lot of good points. It's important to question things. It's important to educate yourself. It's important not to be one-track minded. I've been pro-trans from the beginning of my transition back in 2003. I was a fierce advocate at one point till I realized and did a lot of research, and like many of the doctors now that have done the research, you realize that this doesn't solve gender dysphoria. It doesn't cure you. It will not cure you. It will create a lot more problems for a lot of people. A lot of people could live, we're living, but it's not at all what it's all cut out to be. And that's what we want people to really question the system, especially parents with kids that are gender confused, and especially people that already have a life with a family. This is big. This will change the dynamics. This will create a lot of problems for a lot of people. And you'll have to live with that for the rest of your life. So if you're not a strong person, if you don't have someone by your side that loves you, and then you've lost it all. I mean, we know several trans women who, are lonely. And like that other one said, and it's just, we're creatures that we are not meant to be alone, meant to be cohabitating with someone we love. And this kind of life, you'll get people that want to come and go to bed with you and be an experiment and, fetishize you and all sorts. But, or somebody that may try to want to be with you, but you get a guy who wants to start a family, a trans woman is not going to be it. They'll go out with you for a while, and same with a trans guy. If you get a woman who wants to have babies, and they're not into let's do the artificial insemination thing or whatever else, then it's a hard life, and thank you, Willa, for watching. It's something that needs to be talked about in a civil manner, because believe it or not, we care about you people. We do. We really do. If we didn't, we wouldn't waste the time.
No, Tony, there's no hate.
No.
There really isn't. There's nothing but love for you. And no matter how much you wanted to insult us here tonight, all we can do is offer you love.
Yeah. And educate.
We realize this, that our lives are not based on this flesh.
Yeah.
Our lives are not based on our looks. Our lives are not based on, believe it or not, our gender. There are a lot of married trans women. How dare you? Yes, there are married trans women. And, there's one particular, our friend Marty Purnick, who will be frankly honest with you about all of the transgender friends, women that probably were married as well, that aren't around anymore. And that she's one of the last survivors, and she's 56.
Yeah.
You want to look at how many older trans women there are and how many older trans women make it. They're not many.
No.
So, it's not hate talk.
Yeah.
We're honest, we're open, and we're truth seekers. So that's what we are. And if that's something that you don't like, I'm sorry. That's just what we are. And
how many of the older trans women who got married, who were still have come out because they don't feel whole, Willow, as you say, they're mentally whole, is that they feel like they can't even relate to cis women and have a conversation and talk about pregnancy or talk about their childhood or talk about.
Or if it comes up, and they want to be stealth, they can't really be stealth without lying.
Yeah, and that gets to your consciousness.
If you have to lie every time about your realities, then what are you living?
Yeah,
you know, are you living in truth? Do you think that doesn't affect every cell in your body?
Of course.
When you lie to others and tell them things that, you know, oh, when I was a little girl growing up, and it's like, but you weren't. You know,
and it's sad and it's lonely. It's a lonely life, and yes, many may find somebody that they could cohabitate with and get married, but a lot of those marriages don't last because there is a disconnect.
The world is changing, my friends. Don't get left behind.
The world is not changing like you think it is. You know, yes, people are more tolerant. But when it comes down to brass tacks, there's an order in life, you know, that people aren't willing to completely give up. I
just want to date a woman or a trans woman. I think that is a good goal for my life. Marrying a man, no.
Different folks, jokes for different folks. I mean, you know, we all have to find what makes us happy. But just because you think the world's changing, there are still, you know, ethics. There are still things that, you know, like that story we shared with the trans woman being a parent who, like, totally messed up their daughter. I mean, that's wrong. Whichever way you want to cut it, you know, and if, you know, that's the kind of change the world's heading, I don't want any part of it, you know, because...
All I'm saying is I'm lucky I'm not just into men.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like guys and trans women. Candace Cain was on the I Am Kate show, and she was talking about how she couldn't keep a boyfriend because they just constantly rub, you know,
wrong. Yeah, there's always that friction.
Always that friction. You know,
when college grads and smarty pants can cure cancer, we'll start to believe in scholars and talking heads. There'll never be a cure for cancer because
no one wants to cure cancer. That's how they make money.
Yeah,
it's the big pharma lie that, you know. I mean, you go to the cancer, what is it? The Cancer Society's website. And all they do is show you foods that are going to cause cancer in their menus and stuff for like diet and stuff. So, I mean,
cancer are unruly cells that go rogue. And as long as the human species has self-hatred, this is not even about what you eat and the chemicals you are exposing yourself. That's a big thing. But the self-hatred is one of the biggest causes of cancer, cells that go rogue. So as long as humanity continues to self-hate and hate each other and not love themselves unconditional love, you know, we're going to have all sorts of diseases and we're going to create karma in ourselves. So, all right, we've rambled long enough, and
thanks for watching.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Taking your time. And, you know, if you guys want to watch us more, you can always subscribe to our channel and hit the notifications button, and it'll tell you every time that we have, you know, a video that we might do. We did one yesterday when we were walking down the street. But typically we're on it on Tuesdays
at 8:30. Yeah. So know that, you know, we have no qualms against anyone. We're just trying to spread some awareness. Like we say on our show, Truth Seekers and Truth Teller. We do spread lots of love. That's the name of the game. You know, some love may seem like tough love. Love is not always hearing what you want to hear, you know, because that's just enabling. Love is helping people become aware and finding peace. And, you know, some of the solution that they give trans people doesn't allow them to find any peace. They complicate themselves even more.
And, you know, I mean, if we're warning people that the bridge is out, I think that's a loving thing to do.
Yeah, because we've crossed that bridge. and been there and know and been around lots of trans people, lots and lots of trans people. And so anyway, we could always agree to disagree, but we realize, guys, that we love you. But remember to always love yourselves too. Good night. Sleep well.